Hi, I'm Preacher from New Hunter Church of Christ. I would like to give some advice about freedom. On Monday, we had a holiday that happens every year around June the 26th. It's called Memorial Day. Then we have Labor Day. Well, I said June, I meant May. And then June, we have Labor Day. Or that's in August. But we have two Memorial Days when I look at the calendars for our veterans. Our veterans get slaughtered in the hospitals, get poor care by people that shouldn't even be doctors, or really shouldn't even have a license to perform these acts of heinous and crime on the elderly of our nation. The veterans who gave up their lives, literally for us, you and I, so that we could all be free. What is freedom, as I say as a plea unto you? What does that essentially mean? Well, I think of freedom as a Statue of Liberty that's in New York Harbor. I also think about the freedom to get up every day, to do what is within reason, that is lawfully, and what is noble and right. Seems like those words you can't find anywhere anymore, written in a song, or in a movie, or being talked about in conversation as trinkets of delight. Freedom is so real that it grasps the very tender loins in the very inner core of my soul, that I hate to see that freedom be taken away because of some evil dictators and because of some people in Washington who really are, a lot of people in Washington, really don't want freedom here. They teach about doing horrible things to veterans, and doing horrible things to those people of the Tea Party, who don't want to follow the status quo, who don't fall within the government's grasp of agenda. Where do you stand when it comes to freedom? Are you for it, or are you just going to go along in order to get along? Not what I mean by that. It's not doing nothing. Just sitting in your homes, playing with your technologies, playing with your PlayStations and watching the television, while your brain matter melts to water, and as you lose your knowledge and intellect. Do they teach freedom anymore to children? Do they know what it means to know what liberty is like in the classroom? Know what it is like beyond the pages of a history book of U.S. history? But do they see it practiced in their very homes and know what liberty is, truly? Do they know what these words often mean when used in a sentence? Do they know what the 26 amendments are? Do they know anything about the Constitution? I ask you, what is freedom to you? Is it just a 7-letter word that you memorize on a vocabulary word for a test? Or maybe a spelling bee that you did in the 4th grade? Or does it mean something more to you? You as a nation, you have the ability to do something, to change lives from now on till forever. And freedom and liberty will do just that if we don't just sit back and just go along in order to get along. We have foreign oppressors on our soils. We have people being trained that aren't even supposed to be in this country. We have open borders. We have Fast and Furious, which has not been, nobody's been arrested for that. We still have Guantanamo Bay that is still open. We have the Bilderberg meeting going on in Copenhagen, Denmark, Copenhagen, where criminals come and abound to challenge the global countries and nations of this world that belong to the New World Order Treaty on how they can implement and how to cripple the global economy, to stifle it in order to further suppress those so they can try to get control and clench away people's speech. And the very rights that we have here that are free, that many of our soldiers have literally died and given their very lives for. Where do you stand? Is freedom just a 7-letter word? Freedom. Does that mean something to you? I hope and pray that it does, because true freedom comes flowing from the very throne of God, from heaven above. And the only way that we can continue to remain free is if we stand up and really believe in it and really practice and even show and proclaim it in our very lives. And this great nation that has been quietly bruised and cut up and beat up by dissidents and by evil defiance, by surveillance and spy grids, and by all kinds of things that should never have ever been ever established in this country in the first place. Because that is not freedom. That is a dictatorship. That is everything against the word freedom. So I ask you, as well as your children, what does the word freedom essentially mean to you? Is it just a 7-letter word that you learn on a vocabulary word? That you spelled in a test? Or is it something more? Ask your kids and adults alike in this generation especially, where a lot of schools don't teach these things anymore. I hear that Hanover still does, but most places in the nation do not. They've replaced it with other things that have nothing to do with freedom. As a matter of fact, they want to take that away and strip it all away from all the textbooks about our history and about what George Washington done. He's not an evil tyrant. He is one of the true pioneers of what shaped and crafted this nation to where it is today. He was our first president of the United States. There is nothing evil about that. He was one of the people that made it possible and paved the way for the freedoms that we have that are often taken for granted. So I plead with you, will you speak out at these meetings when they talk about all these horrible things that don't represent the betterment for all humanity and all nations? I ask you and plead with you, will you please say something? Say something for the name of God and for your country so it will remain free. Or will you just simply go along in order just to get along? What does freedom mean to you? Do you want to remain free or be enslaved by the dictators of the New World Order and be in enslavement prison camps? That's where you ultimately will end up, where all the other empires have ended up. So I ask you one more time, what does freedom essentially mean to you? The end. Written by Michael DeSilvas, pastor, preacher, evangelist from New Under Church of Christ. A little expose on freedom.